Welcome everyone to MJ Hobby Corner. For this video I want to show part 2 of the sea creatures project that I'm doing for the game Deep Wars. I'm going to have some Deep Wars content coming up. It's going to be some solo gaming for Deep Wars, and I want to have plenty of sea creatures. So without further ado, let's go see what this new creature project is. So I'm going to be playing solo Deep Wars and then also playing some Shadow Sea, so you guys could see how all that works. It's both of those games are in the same world. So I'm doing a lot of sea creatures, and I have this cute dolphin, and he is very cute. I almost hate converting him, but I'm going to. And I do have another one of these, so I'll probably keep the other one as a dolphin. We're going to make an Ichthyosaur. And Deep Wars, for those of you that don't know what an Ichthyosaur is, it's basically in Deep Wars they call it a fish lizard, and that's what it was. It was a marine reptile, a real prehistoric marine reptile. And they came in many sizes and shapes. And we're going to turn one of these into a smaller Ichthyosaur. Now, I sculpted an Ichthyosaur some time ago, and it's really big, right? It's a big one. This one's going to be a lot smaller. So let me show you how I'm going to do it. So we have these two fish for my Ichthyosaur. I'm going to do a little bit of Frankenstein work. Some wire, my cutters, and I do need some kind of clipping device like this stuff. All right, for the plastic. And we need Procreate. And of course, there is something, I will need something to shape my Procreate. So some kind of tool for sculpting. All right, so let's get this going. Step 1 of the Ichthyosaur. So the first thing I have to do is cut off the tail of the dolphin, since it is at the wrong plane. The Ichthyosaur's tail is in the vertical plane and the dolphin's is in the horizontal plane. So I remove the tail and do a little filing. This is a very tough plastic. And then I add a little wire in the dolphin's tail. This wire is going to lend some support, and I cut off the tail of the sailfish that I'm using, as you can see there, because I'm swapping tails. And basically add the sailfish tail, which is more appropriate for the Ichthyosaur, and attach it to the body of the dolphin. Okay, so I'm going to have to do a little filing, a little cutting. And that's what I'm doing here. I take my X-Acto knife and start cutting off the excess to make sure that the tail fits in nicely with the body. And there's a little bit of the wire that I use to kind of mount the tail. So now I use Milliput. And a Milliput is great for filling in you know, if you need to fill in gaps. It's a very soft resin clay, so I like it for this purpose. So then I add a little bit of crazy glue to my dolphin's stubby tail there, and then I attach the sailfin tail to the dolphin's body, right, with crazy glue. So once the tail is attached, I take my Milliput and I begin to fill in that, attachment point between the two tails. Between the tail, basically. Now, always use water with these resin clays, and that's what I'm doing here, kind of just smoothing the clay, making sure that everything is nice and smooth. And then later I can file it a little bit if I need to. So for the fins, the rear fins of the Ichthyosaur, I make some holes in the body of the dolphin, right near there, the base of the rear area there, and just make a hole so that I can fit a little bit of wire through that. So then I cut out a little bit of wire, and with some pliers, I insert the wire into the plastic. Okay, and here's a view of me inserting that wire, you know, into the plastic. It's a very hard plastic. These toys are pretty good quality. So once I have my two wires there fitted for the rear fin, that's it. I'm done with that part. So now I attach a wire to the beak of the dolphin because, of course, ichthyosaurs had long snouts. And I make sure I drill a hole in the belly using my Dremel, and I attach my little toothpick there. That's going to be for my flight stand, and it's also a good handle. So there you go. There you see everything is ready for the procreate clay, which is what I use next. Now I take a little bit of procreate and I sculpt with very little amounts of procreate at a time. And I begin, oh, there's Merlin. I begin to sculpture the snout. And there it is, adding little bits of clay at a time. I build up the snout, I build up the head. I basically modify the entire head and add the little bits that are going to play the role of eyes. Okay. And I take my little tool. This came from a glue bottle. And I make my eyes. It's a great little tool for making eye imprints. And then with my X-Acto knife, I go back and I kind of trim up some of the fins, you know, give them a little more detail. I will continue to shape this. Process takes about an hour. Then the most important part is to add teeth. Some of those teeth. And here I'm starting the teeth on the other side. And there you go, I finish up the teeth, and that really gives the model a nice look to it. And I have to go back and do some reshaping of the forehead, but pretty much finished. So now let's talk about the bases. And what I'm going to show you here is a base that I make using this old plastic CD case. Some people gave me a few of these cases, and I'm using them for projects. I use them in a lot of different things, and I use the clear plastic for my water effects. So I cut out a piece of this plastic case, and I'm going to insert the toothpick right through the middle of this raised plastic area. This was the area that held the DVD in place. And again, I use this plastic for 172 scale bases or 15 millimeter bases. It's very useful. So I drill a little hole into the bit here, the raised area of the plastic, and then put my toothpick through and snip it on the other side so that the fish is in place. Then I take some procreate and some Milliput, and I begin to add it all around the base. I also mix in a little bit of super sculpey with the procreate, and this helps the clay last longer. You know, I use less amounts of procreate and just surround the entire toothpick to build up my rocky stratum. So I keep doing this process until I fill the base quite nicely, and that's basically all I'm doing in these clips. Then I add my procreate. I switch to procreate and just add globs of procreate to the base of the fish here. And with a drill bit, and I just take a drill bit and kind of use it as a rolling pin and just roll it over all the clay. It's useful to wet it. And that gives me some really nice texturing. And then I take my sculpting tool and continue to texture it. And then for deep sea sponges, it's always nice to add a few organisms to the rock. So I take little bits of Milliput and I make like these little chimneys and then just stick them onto the clay very carefully. And these are going to be like little sponges. Tube sponges. So then I take a pick and very carefully with a sharp point begin to make the hole of my sponges, and there you go, you have a nice clear view now. So make very delicately, just make the holes in the top of the sponges. It doesn't have to be very deep, just enough that when you paint it, it's you know, clear. So I keep doing this for all my tube sponges. And this also helps really shape the sponge a little bit. It's kind of cool. All right, gives it an interesting shape. Then I take the same pick and I just make holes into the sponge. Make a ton of little holes, very carefully, right? And gently, so I'm not like really messing up the clay. But just make a bunch of holes into it. And that's going to give the illusion of a sponge. And of course, I will paint this in different colors from my actual stone. So once it's all painted, you'll get the sense that these are like big tube sponges growing right out of the rock. And I'll make some corals and things like that. All right, so there are the sponges. Now this needs to dry. All right, and once it's dry, I can add more texture paste to the base to give the illusion of sand. And that's it. Then I just paint it. So then I mount my anglerfish. This was one of the anglerfish that I had made in the previous video. And there's Sebastian checking out the projects down below. So the fish is painted, the base is now drying up, and then I can paint everything, and this fish figure is going to be ready for the tabletop. Now I'm showing this because the same process is what I'm going to do for the base of the Ichthyosaur. So now why don't I summarize some of the techniques that I've used to make sea creatures. So these are actual completely scratch-built sculptures. These are made with armatures, and they are in my Deep Wars playlist, my sculpting playlist for Deep Wars. I even made a little diver, and this is all done with green stuff and Procreate mix. And for giant squids, here I used an echinacea plant. It's a plastic plant, and then I just sculpted the body of the squid into it. And you can make things like krakens or anything you want. By using the handles of brown paper bags and plastic plants, I also make soft corals, and I make giant tube worms and things of that nature. So these are all scratch builds that I've done in the past. Now, using real seashells and here a plastic plant as well, I made this strange cephalopod and also this strange character here that you see there with the staff. By using pistachio shells, I can make things like squids and even crabs and just a bunch of different creatures by using pistachio shells. I also use spider rings and cut them up, and I make these crustaceans, and this is going to be for an isopod swarm, and Deep Wars has rules for this. So there's the Ichthyosaur drying up, and in the background you see an official Deep Wars diver, and there you get an idea of the scale. I'm going to let all this dry up before I paint it. So that's it, folks. I hope you enjoyed it. I really enjoy these projects, and of course in the future we will have many different kinds of projects, not just fish, but we can look at maybe alien life forms, terrestrial creatures, and basically anything that comes to the imagination. So thank you very much. Please hit like and comment below to give support to the channel, and subscribe if you like what you see. And hopefully you will see all these creatures in future games. Some of these we've already played with in some of our Deep Wars games. So thank you very much, guys, and I'll talk to you in the next video. Hope you enjoyed this, and I will see you soon with more crazy critters.